I am starting with 14 single crochet stitches. I need to begin with any multiple of 2 stitches, and I've worked a single crochet row just because that gives me a nice foundation to begin with. For my first type of crossed double crochet, I'm going to do a chain 3, which is my build up or turning chain. It counts as a double crochet, so I will skip that first stitch because my chain 3 has taken the place of a double crochet. The first type of cross stitch involves skipping my first stitch and working a double crochet into the next stitch. So I'll go in and I've worked a double crochet into the second stitch. Now I'm going to do a double crochet working behind that stitch I just made, and I'm going to put it into this stitch I skipped. So I'll do a yarn over, and working behind that stitch I'll take my hook around and work into both loops of that skipped stitch, and it helps to turn it towards you to see what you're doing. There's my first crossed double crochet, and they are not connected to each other. They're just crossing over each other. I'll show you another one. Skip a stitch, double crochet into the next stitch. Then working behind the stitch you just made, double crochet into the skipped stitch. I've come up to the end of the row. I have 3 stitches left, so I'll do my last crossed double crochet and then put a regular double crochet into that last stitch. There is my first row of crossed double crochets, and they are independent of each other. They aren't touching each other at all. And you notice they lean to the right. So for right-handers, they're going to lean in this direction. To begin my second type of crossed double crochets, I begin with my chain 3. Once again, I'll skip that first stitch and do a double crochet into the second stitch, skip a stitch, and work into the next stitch. And now I'm just going to double crochet, keeping the yarn in back, but my hook in front. I'm just going to double crochet into the skipped stitch. This actually interconnects these 2 double crochet stitches. Let me do that again. Skip one, work into the next one, and then double crochet into the skipped stitch. So when I do that, the yarn's in back, the hook ends up being in front. Double crochet in the second stitch, double crochet in the first stitch. And then I'm at the end of the row. I work into the last stitch with a double crochet. So this variation looks a little less like an X, but you can see it's still crossing. And in this case, the cross goes in the opposite direction. On our first ones, it crossed to the right. Here it kind of crosses to the left. I'll do another row of single crochet and then show you a third type of crossed stitch. For my final crossed double crochet, I'm going to show you the one that's the trickiest, but it is the opposite of this first one that we did. Begin with a chain 3. Once again, I'm skipping a stitch and working a double crochet into the next stitch. This time I want to keep both the yarn and the hook in front of the stitch I just made and work into the skipped stitch. What I have to do is yarn over, and then I really have to hang on to that stitch I just made and keep it out of the way while I put my hook into the skipped stitch and make sure I go under both loops. It can be kind of tricky. Let's try that again. Yarn over, I want to go under both loops. There it is. Now I'll pull this one out of the way. The first one's always the hardest. And complete my double crochet. Now it's hard to see right here, but those two are not connected. Let me do that again. Skip a stitch and double crochet. Then holding that stitch out of the way, go in under both loops and come back out. Can you see that that's the first stitch is out of the way there? Pull up a loop and complete my double crochet. This one is, as I say, pretty tricky, and I do not recommend it for beginning crocheters. It's just a little too much to wrap your head around for most people. Even experienced crocheters sometimes want to avoid this one unless you can just manage not to. But sometimes you need it. And as you see, it gets a little bit easier with practice. So I'm getting, hopefully, a little bit more comfortable even as I do it on this swatch. Yet another reason to do a swatch, so you can become familiar with the stitches that you're working on before you start doing your actual piece. And my last stitch is a double crochet. And here I have my cross stitches, which are not connected to each other. See right there, there's a space between them. And you notice that these also cross to the left, but they are more crossed looking than this center row that I did.